Overpenetration has become the boogeyman of every gun shop counter and online ammo debate. Ammo companies love to push the fear that your bullet might go through a threat and strike an innocent bystander on the other side. But what if the real danger isn't overpenetration at all, but bad marksmanship, marketing hype, and misunderstood numbers? In this video, we'll talk about how the myth of overpenetration got started, why the data doesn't support the hysteria, and how ammo companies use it to sell you boutique hollow points with premium price tags. We'll dig into FBI testing protocols, real-world police gunfight stats, and what modern gelatin tests actually reveal about pass-through risk. You'll also hear about specific loads that fail or succeed depending on barrel length, how drywall and clothing impact expansion, and when overpenetration is a real concern versus just marketing fluff. So, if you've ever wondered whether your carry ammo needs to cost $1 a round just to be safe, or if using FMJ will land you in court, stick around. We're about to blow the lid off one of the biggest myths in defensive shooting. In the mid-1980s, the FBI found itself staring at a public relations disaster. 2 agents lay dead after the Miami-Dade shootout, and the service's chosen 9mm silvertip round had lodged only 11 inches deep in a suspect's chest before stopping short of the heart. Inside the bureau, the failure was framed as insufficient penetration, yet the public memory became distorted. If one bullet stopped too early, another might race clean through the next thug and into grandma down the street. The fix the bureau settled on, 12 to 18 inches of calibrated gelatin, had nothing to do with stray round safety and everything to do with guaranteeing that projectiles reached vital organs from less than perfect angles. Ammunition designers responded by tweaking jacket thickness, cavity depth, and velocity to meet that yardstick. Early marketing copy celebrated street-proven one-stop capability, but copywriters quickly realized a more emotional hook: fear for innocent lives. By repeating that full metal jacket loads might slice through a burglar and end a block away, they nudged customers toward premium hollow points that happened to triple the profit margin. The idea spread from law enforcement procurement meetings to gun shop counters, then into chat forums where new carriers are told that using anything but the costliest bonded slug is reckless. The irony is that, even before Miami, documented cases of a lawful citizen shooting through a threat and striking a bystander were practically non-existent. Police departments had seen a handful, largely during outdoor foot chases or multi-officer engagements. Yet the same agencies also logged thousands of misses every year that embedded in brick walls, parked cars, and the occasional bystander's leg. Still, a tidy narrative had taken root. Deep penetration equals danger to innocence. Controlled expansion equals social responsibility. The nuance, that adequate penetration saves the defender's life far more reliably than minimal penetration saves everyone else's, was drowned out by slogans on glossy ammo boxes. Spend an afternoon digging through shooting reports, and a pattern emerges. Whether it is the NYPD study that tracked 2 decades of gunfights or the Los Angeles County dataset, cataloged by Dr. Martin Fackler, hit ratios hover around 20 to 30%. In other words, roughly 3 out of 4 rounds fired by trained officers never touch the suspect. Civilian incidents show similar results because adrenaline, low light, movement, and fear punish accuracy across the board. Those wild shots travel at full initial velocity with perfect stability. A miss from a 9mm hardball load retains lethal energy well past 50 yards, and even the beloved federal HST loses very little speed before burying itself in a neighbor's garage. By comparison, a bullet that is bored through a torso already wasted 50 to 70% of its energy-crushing bone and muscle, then destabilized as it yawed and tumbled. Ballistic gel tests that measure exit velocity from sim torsos routinely clock projectiles at less than 600 feet per second, barely half their launch speed. For serious injury, the victim would need to be within spitting distance. Real-world cases reflect the math. Philadelphia in 1989, a .38 special round zipped through a burglary suspect's arm, crossed 2 feet, and unfortunately killed an adjacent plainclothes officer. Arizona campus in 1990. The same scenario, only the pass-through struck another cop in the vest at sharply reduced velocity. Over 10,000 justified citizen shootings have been logged since then, and researchers still struggle to find a single instance of a home defender's bullet traversing an intruder and maiming a family member on the other side. Misses, however, litter court dockets. A liquor store clerk's .40 hollow point that shattered a passerby's ankle, a homeowner's buckshot that slammed through drywall and wounded a child in another room, all pure, clean misses. The empirical takeaway is blunt. Overpenetration is a statistical footnote compared with simple, bad marksmanship. Hollow point ammunition earned its place because it performs two jobs at once. It cuts a wider, permanent cavity and usually halts inside soft tissue, preventing unnecessary collateral risk. Yet, the word usually rarely survives marketing departments. Shove a modern half-inch cavity through 4 layers of Carhartt, and the petals can clog with cloth, causing the round to behave like a flat point. When that happens, penetration increases, not decreases. Shot through more robust barriers, automotive glass, interior studs, even a refrigerator, many popular defensive loads exceed 20 inches in gelatin. Agency testing protocols take these failures into account, but internet folklore distills them down to use gold dots and you're golden. There are documented pass-through injuries involving jacketed hollow points. One civil suit out of Texas centered on a .40 caliber JHP that left the suspect, traversed a drywall partition, and lodged in a shopper's calf. The jury still ruled the shooting justified. The payout arrived in a separate negligent settlement. Expansion itself is also velocity-dependent. Short-barreled Micro-9s often shave 100 to 150 feet per second off listed speeds, pushing some projectiles below their design window. Run those same loads through a 5-inch duty pistol, expansion blossoms perfectly, but the slug may stop several inches sooner. Fine if the path is unobstructed, inadequate if it must smash the humerus before reaching the heart. That is why the FBI metric remains 12 to 18 inches after barriers. It accommodates less than ideal angles, thick arms, and outer garment obstructions, providing a safety buffer rather than a guaranteed backstop. Reality, therefore, looks like this. Hollow points are generally preferable, yet they are not a magical failsafe. A thinking shooter pairs projectile choice with barrel length, then verifies function and point of impact rather than relying on cutaway ads. Walk into any big-box sporting goods store, and the cheapest full metal jacket tray sells for around 30 cents a round. Premium defensive boxes with phrasings like barrier blind or home protector fetch $1 or more. The margin difference is staggering. Selling that step up hinges on elevating risk perception. Early magazine spreads suggested new hollow points would transfer energy inside the threat. But by the 2000s, copywriters pivoted to public safety language. Reduced risk to bystanders, engineered to stop in the target, not beyond. Firearms bloggers repeated the claims, manufacturers quoted the blogs, and a feedback loop formed. Meanwhile, law school hypotheticals about reckless endangerment through overpenetration seeped into gun shop chatter. In practice, prosecutors focus almost exclusively on whether the initial trigger pull was lawful. Civil court is a different beast, yet even there, plaintiff attorneys prefer uncontested deep pockets, such as convenience store chains or apartment complexes. A private carrier who can document that he chose an FBI spec load, followed safe backstop training, and fired in immediate defense rarely makes a juicy target. Nonetheless, the fear sells. At trade shows, one still hears the hushed pitch. Use our round or you'll be liable for whatever is behind the threat. That narrative also invites endless caliber hopping. First .40 was mandatory to avoid underpenetration. Then its perceived kick risked misses, so 9mm with exotic projectiles became the antidote. The goalposts shift because the business model rewards cycle churn. Understanding this ecosystem frees the shooter to evaluate ammunition on objective performance, rather than emotional marketing. Certain environments turn the theoretical into plausible. Apartment dwellers share nothing more substantial than 2 layers of half-inch gypsum separated by empty air. Firing a centerfire pistol down a hallway when loved ones sleep behind those walls demands forethought. Home defenders should map angles of fire and mentally rehearse lateral movement for cleaner sightlines. Overpenetration also enters the equation with Magnum handguns and rifle calibers indoors. A .44 Magnum soft point at 1,500 feet per second will blow through gel, studs, and stucco with vigor. The same energy that drops a deer at 70 yards is going to ignore 2 layers of sheetrock. Carbines firing .556, NATO or 7.62 by 39 add another wrinkle. Light for caliber projectiles often fragment after soft tissue impact, reducing the danger behind the target. Yet a clean miss will slice through a dozen walls. Shotgun loads occupy both extremes. Number 4, buck tends to bury in 15 inches of gel and usually stays in a second wall, whereas a 1-ounce slug rivals intermediate rifle rounds in barrier penetration. Any homeowner concerned about sleeping children through drywall should test pattern spread and choose shot size accordingly, but must also remember that misses with even small pellet birdshot wreak havoc once pellet pattern opens beyond 7 yards. Outdoor defense flips the risk calculus. Hiking in bear country or working rural security puts open space behind the target, and the primary concern shifts to bone penetration and straight-line trajectory. There, hardcast or controlled fracture rounds shine, the very loads a nervous apartment owner might avoid. Context, not blanket rules, determines acceptable risk. The experienced shooter starts with reliability. A round that nosedives in the feed ramp is worse than any theoretical liability. Once reliability is proven, verify that impact aligns with sights. Different bullet weights shift point of impact. A 147-grain subsonic often prints 2 inches higher at 10 yards than a 115-grain plus P. After function and zero come ballistic requirements. For daily concealed carry in town, a reputable law enforcement validated load such as Federal 124-grain HST, Speer 124-grain Gold Dot, Winchester 147-grain Ranger T, Remington 124-grain Bonded Golden Saber, or Hornady 135-grain Critical Duty covers every plausible angle. These rounds average 14 to 16 inches in gel, expand through denim, and have decades of actual street results. For micro-compacts, consider the lighter 115-grain HST or 100-grain plus P, Barnes Tac XP loads that reach velocity out of shorter barrels. In woods carry, where four-legged predators wear 3 inches of muscle and hide, lean toward deep-driving projectiles such as 200-grain hardcast 44 Special, 220-grain hardcast 10mm, or monolithic solids in 357 Magnum. Even then, confirm that the sidearm's sights are regulated for that heavier slug. Shotgun owners guarding hallways get excellent balance from buffered number 4 buck at 12-gauge velocities. Those running AR pattern carbines should look at 55 to 64-grain soft points or bonded JSP rounds that fragment in tissue but punch windshield glass if necessary. What matters most is time on the trigger. Dry fire repetitions, force-on-force scenarios, and low-light drills cultivate the skills that prevent misses, the real hazard to bystanders. Good ammunition reduces one variable. Disciplined practice reduces the rest. Viewers often ask whether caliber alone guarantees safe penetration. The answer is no. A .45 auto loaded with classic hardball can skate through 20 inches of gelatin and still punch plywood, while a 9mm carrying modern bonded hollow points stops sooner than some heavy .38 special loads. The projectile design, target angle, and impact speed dictate depth more than case diameter. Another common claim is that plus P loads always make hollow points expand better. Additional pressure does raise velocity, yet the increase might be only 40 feet per second from a subcompact barrel, which does little for expansion while boosting muzzle flash and recoil. A third question concerns exotic fragmenting ammunition advertised as overpenetration proof. Independent tests show many of those loads shallow out under 8 inches after meeting bone simulants, failing to reach organs that end fights. Marketing copies lean on hometown YouTube blocks and clear gel, but in calibrated 10% ordnance gelatin, fragments peter out before they have done decisive work. A final myth says that civil juries punish any defender who selects high-energy loads. Court transcripts suggest juries focus on whether the defender behaved reasonably, not on energy numbers they seldom understand. Evidence that an owner fired only when attacked, dialed 911 immediately, and cooperated with police carries more legal weight than foot-pounds on a box flap. The unglamorous truth is that responsible gun owners read after-action reports, choose ammunition that balances penetration and control, then spend the real money on structured practice. They shoot reduced round count accuracy drills, confirm zero at dusk under streetlights, and pressure test decision-making through scenario classes. These habits slash the likelihood of stray rounds, the proven threat to bystanders. Overpenetration may haunt internet comment threads, but hits delivered with calm judgment and vetted ammunition remain the surest recipe for keeping good people safe. But that's going to do it for today. Overpenetration sounds scary until you look at the facts. The real risk isn't a bullet that goes through a threat, it's one that misses completely. Responsible gun owners don't just choose reliable ammo, they build skill, map their home's angles, and train to avoid mistakes. Hollow points aren't magic, and FMJ isn't a death sentence for bystanders. So, what do you carry? And why? Drop your loadout in the comments below. Hit like if this helped cut through the fear fog, share it with your range crew, and subscribe for more no-nonsense breakdowns. And don't forget to tap that bell for more. Thanks for watching.